Hello students, a very warm welcome to all. I am Dr. Premal Ramesh Devre from Department of English of SPH Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Manila. Today we are going to discuss a beautiful poem entitled Sonnet 29 by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is considered to be the greatest playwright and poet of the English language. He wrote 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and various other poems. Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Othello are most remarkable plays written by him. Stern says, over the last 400 years, Shakespeare's words have entertained and moved us, giving us new perspectives on ourselves and others. So, Sonnet 29 is a poem written by William Shakespeare. Like many of Shakespeare's sonnets, Sonnet 29 is a love poem concerned with physical beauty and erotic desire. It begins with a despondent mood as the poet laments at his misfortunes. However, his despair comes to an end when he thinks of his beloved. This sonnet is from Fair Youth Sonnet sequence. In it, the speaker feels both insecure and troubled by several things going on in his life. However, the thought of his beloved immediately brings him joy despite of that circumstances. Sonnet 29 is about the power of love positively affect one's mindset. The presence of love in his life is sufficient to make him forget other troubles. A sonnet is a specific type of poetry. The sonnet derives in 13th century from Italy, and the Italian sonnet, Italian word sonetto, which means little sound or song. Typical themes in sonnet is love or being rejected by the one you loved. In a sonnet, you often find a speaker who investigates himself, his thoughts and emotions. Most typical about sonnet is that it has fixed pattern and structure. The sonnet which we are going to discuss today is a so-called Shakespearean sonnet or English sonnet. So this is the text. We will go through it in our upcoming slides. Let's go through the first quatrain. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deep heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. In the first line, the poet assumes himself to be in disgrace with fortune, meaning he has been having bad luck. He also feels in disgrace with men's eyes, implying that the general public looks on him unfavorably. It means people are judging him. In disgrace with fortune suggests that fortune itself is making judgments. He is in disgrace and he has nobody to whip or be comforted by. He is alone. This is his outcast state. The poet finds himself in the same situation. He weeps over his condition and he prays to heaven for relief. Heaven personified is God, and in this case, he is deaf, making the poet cries bootless. He is crying out to heaven and cursing his fate. In first quatrain, the speaker speaks about how lonely he feels and even heaven can help him. He just left with his tragic fate. The speaker speaks about his present issue or problem. Let's go through the second quatrain. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. These lines focus on the speaker's state of mind, how his outcast state affects the way he feels. Line 5 to 8 explore the dynamic of his mental state in considerable detail. He compares himself to other people. He wishes to be like one more rich in hope, and he wants to be like someone who is more physically beautiful and who has more friends. He wants to have another man's skill and someone else's freedom to act and realize his dreams. The speaker is obsessed with other people and their success, wealth, and influences. If he feels himself to be an outcast, he does so because he so obsessively compares himself to other people. An image of the speaker thus begins to emerge here. In line 8, the line focused on the speaker's status in relation to other people. He turns and considers his own pleasures. He has lost the capacity to take pleasure in things he loves best. But it also suggests a solution to his misery. Instead of focusing on other people's success, he should return to the things he loves and try to draw joy from them again. So, this quatrain 2 speaks about the issue or problem in detail. Let's go through quatrain 3. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despairing, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. In line 9 and 10, the poem undergoes a major shift here. The simile of lark is developed in line 10 to 12 when the speaker describes the effect that a thought of his love has on his state. The fact that the lark rises from the sullen earth at the break of day implies that the day is much uh, happier than the night. The daybreak is compared here to the dawning of a thought of the beloved. In line 11 and 12, the poet compares his state, his mental condition, to lark singing at the break of a day. The lark here is a traditional symbol of morning. It's a bird that often greets the daybreak with song. As the lark sings hymns at heaven's gate, so the poet's soul is invigorated with the thought of the Lord here. So, in this third quatrain, the poet resolves the issue or the problem. Last couplet of the poem, that is the last two lines. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. The final two lines of the poem serve as a clarification. They try to explain why thinking about the young man produces such a radical transformation in the poet's mood. His explanation, remembering thy sweet love brings wealth, so much that he wouldn't give it up to be kings of England. He doesn't want to be king because of the wealth that the young man's love brings him. The final line of the poem, that then I scorn to change my state with kings, suggests that the speaker has given up to the obsession with other people's status and success. The speaker has found an alternate form of value, something that comforts him even when he is down and out. He may have even found an alternate way of relating to people. Love is not a scarce resource like wealth and status. So, this poem, Sonnet 29, is actually divided into three quatrains and a couplet. Quatrain 1 presents issue or problem, in which speaker speaks about how lonely he feels and even heaven can help him and he is left with his tragic fate. In quatrain 2, he expands about that issue or problem in detail. He actually is wishing to be someone or some another man with friends, wealth, freedom, and the things he used to enjoy. The first two quatrains, that is the octave, in it the speaker speaks specifically about depression and the loss, the speaker and his hopelessness, and it is a series of anxieties comparing himself negatively to successful and beautiful people. So this octave says about the state of mind of the speaker which is depressed. Then in sestet, Specifically, the quatrain 3 resolves the issue or the problem when poet starts to think about somebody he loves, which helps him to change his miserable feeling into hope, and his mood transforms here. And the couplet is the theme of the sonnet 29. It is not just about disappointment and despair, it's a poem about the way that love comforts, soothes, and repairs many injuries that our that one endures in life. So the couplet speaker gives conclusion or theme of the poem, and he says that because the person loves him, he feels so good that he wouldn't change it after all. So the sestet or last 6 lines resolves the issue or the problem. The theme of this sonnet is love. Especially the last 2 lines of Sonnet 29 emphasize the theme of love and how love and friendship can help you when you feel sad and depressed. And and it can give you hope and inspiration. This theme is important in today's life, or it is relevant even today as it was 400 years ago, because it doesn't feel matter how much money you have with you if you don't have anybody to love. So it is fact that having somebody to love you will light up your life and help you through your hard times. Some poetic devices we have here in this poem. Personification. The poet make use of personification in the opening lines of the poet. The poet personifies both fortune and heaven and blames them for his bad luck. He equates fortune and men's eyes. The speaker is not only in disgrace with other people, he is also in disgrace with fortune. It implies that fortune itself has eyes and the capacity to pass judgment on the speaker and his actions. In the third line, Shakespeare personifies heaven, given heaven being deaf. Shakespeare personifies his state too. His state sings hymns. Shakespeare also make use of simile here in line 11 and 12 when he compares his state to a lark at the break of day arising. The poet compares himself to lark. Again we have imagery here, that is heaven's gate. The image gives reader very positivity, and by using an image, heaven's gate, Shakespeare makes reader think of happiness, peace, beauty, and divinity. How good his love makes him feel. We also have the example of symbol here. The lark in addition is simile, and it can also be a symbol of freedom and a symbol of joy. So the presence of love in poet's life is sufficient to make him forget other troubles, and the thought of his beloved are such a source of joy for him that he no longer wishes to exchange his life with any other. So this poem is obviously a celebration of love. Hope you like the poem. Thank you very much.